We discuss the US election. Transition chaos is Professor of Political Science at Cyprus College. Peter Mathews, we just heard Donald Trump Jr., Andrew Giuliani have contracted COVID-19 and we're nearing the 12 million mark of COVID infections across the US, including where you are in California, where they're having some more curfews, Peter.
Yes, it's going to be really bad, and it's due to the policies that Trump has been pursuing, basically neglecting, advocating initially strong amounts of contact tracing, widespread testing, quarantining. That could have been done way back in February and March of last year. We wouldn't be in this place. However, this is a tragedy for anyone individual who gets infected, and I hope they recover. But policy, it's about public policy to save the 250,000, more than that, people who died, to try to save more people from dying and joining them. And 195,000 new cases yesterday, that's a record. And this needs to be changed, and we need to get the new president-elect in there. And I think this president should transfer power peacefully, do everything he can to make sure the transition is smooth, so that his people can meet with the Biden people and get the information flowing to take care of this problem. This is the most serious national security problem in recent years, COVID-19.
Well, Pete, he's done none of that, has he? Absolutely zero. Look, I think in the media conference yesterday we saw a little bit of the rhetoric start to slightly change. If you look closely at it, saying, you know, this won't happen for another 4 years. But what do you make of what's going on? It's an international embarrassment, really.
It's horrendous. I mean, the U.S. has been a model to the world when it comes to certain things like democracy and rule of law. And even the technology in healthcare, we have some of the best in the world. And the world is saying, what is going on there? This is a time when crisis requires response, a proportionate response. And we have a leader who's absent while on leave. I guess he's on leave. The problem is that the world looks to the U.S. and we're losing our credibility as an advocate for democracy and human rights and social justice. So this has to be immediately reversed. I want to also mention that this COVID-19 is a pandemic that's affecting individuals and people's lives. You know, my daughter this morning, she's 9 years old, she said, "Daddy, why doesn't just the government just write checks and pay people their salaries to stay home for several weeks?" That's what President President-elect Biden's own advisor, one of the doctors, said that's what should be done, like other countries have done before, to flatten the curve and to keep it down. And my own 9-year-old said, why don't we just pay the people and let them stay home, at least for a little while? So yeah. If she can think of that, I think other people, I think President Trump should really, and certain President Biden should be looking at that as well.
And you're not only contending with COVID-19, you've got the bushfires that are occurring with the poor air quality in California as well. When does a president have to concede defeat legally?
Legally, he has to, by December 8th, when all of the certifications from all the states have to be brought in, and they will officially certify. In fact, Georgia has already certified. The governor there and the Secretary of State has signed paperwork certifying that Joe Biden won that election. And the leaders of some other states have already certified, but not all of them. But December 8th is the deadline. So then on December 14th, the actual electoral votes can be cast in each state's capital by the slate of electors whose candidate won the plurality of the votes, of the popular vote. And by the way, it wasn't always the case. And there's something else I'm really concerned about. It looks like President Trump is acting more like an authoritarian leader rather than someone who believes in democracy and to be a true populist. He's not a populist. He's acting like an authoritarian dictator when he says that perhaps the states should just appoint new electors. Forget the people's vote, he says, and suggested that. He actually met with the Michigan, two of their leaders in the state legislature, to see what they would think about them just canceling the popular vote and appointing electors that would be loyal to him. But they said, no, we're not going to do this. So thank God there are people on the ground at the state level and also many federal officials who would not go along with the president on this and him try to change our democracy into more of a semi-dictatorship.
Yeah, that would be impossible. There's enough machinery in place from a government perspective in the US for that not to happen.
That's correct. It would be impossible.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of time, isn't it? But the problem is where we're at the moment with this pandemic absolutely crippling the country and a nation hugely divided, more than it's been in decades. It's just every day is so costly.
Yes, indeed. And this divisiveness is going to be shattering for later on. It's going to be something we have to heal from, and it'll take even longer to put down a path of direction what the country needs to go into for President-elect Biden when he's in presidency. It'll make it harder for him because of this divisiveness that's been fostered by the past administration, or the present one, rather, I should say, and the people that are the minions that are pushing it. And, you know, using ethnicity and race to divide the American people, using even class. We need to bring people together for common purpose, as President Roosevelt did and other presidents have done. President Reagan also had a method of helping unite people. You know, many of us may not have agreed on his policy, but President Reagan was someone who believed that everyone in America belongs here. This has not been the case with this president. It's very, very dangerous, and it's going to set the country back, and we all have to work extra hard to get us back on track again.
We did hear, Peter, through the election and also some of the protests that took place for Donald Trump, that they were relatively peaceful. So I guess that's more of a positive sign. But what are people actually feeling at the moment? We've got not only California changing their curfew, but also places like New York. So people are, still being stuck indoors. How are they all feeling?
It is very tough. I mean, especially with Thanksgiving around the corner. Most people in America go to their families and extended families for celebration. And there are dozens of people there. It's always indoors or even sometimes in the patio, but it's close quarters. And this cannot be done. People should not be doing it this time. And even the leading health experts have said, do not go to your relatives if they don't live in your own household, like you normally do. This is not normal times. And so people are very distraught about that too, and they're concerned. But I think most people who know that this is very serious, I think are going to observe and be careful not to be indoors with their relatives who live in a different household. So there's a psychological effect. Young children are having a difficult time because they had to stay at home in a lot of school districts. But the ones that have opened up, that's even more dangerous, where children have been infected and they don't show the symptoms, but they could carry to the families. That could be part of why there's this spread. In fact, 1 million children had new cases of COVID. 1 million children in recent months were infected in America. And that came out from a government report. And that has to be looked at and say, we need to reassess how to do this. But it's not very easy at this point. But right now we're in a survival mode. We have to make sure everyone is healthy and lives throughout this crisis, especially our little children, and not just take shortcuts.
Sounds like your 9-year-old daughter's got a future in politics. Let's hope so, with that kind of common sense thinking. Just finally, what have you thought of President-elect Biden's manner, his rhetoric? He seems to be staying calm through these very troubled waters.
Yes, he is. His rhetoric has been very soothing. In fact, he even came out and said that he's not going to, and his administration will not pursue any kind of a vendetta or any kind of investigation against the Trump administration that could divide the country. He's trying to, I think he's going, leaning over backwards to be conciliatory and to unite the country. And I think he's been the right approach at this time. But let him take office so he can move forward. But let him train his people to get trained and notified of all the information that they need by President Trump going ahead and letting the transition go through. He needs to let this happen like all the other presidents in the past have done, so America can be prepared and Biden can be prepared to take office on day one, fully prepared as far as coronavirus goes, and also security issues in other countries in the world. There's the intel services that are not able to even report to Biden directly about the intelligence reports that he gives to the president every day. The president-elect can't get that because of the lack of ascertainment. Trump has been stopping the ascertainment that should have been done by one of his directors in the GSA. And that's physically blocking the process, the democratic process, which I think is not only very dangerous, it might even be illegal, possibly.
Well, Peter, always great to talk to you. And as you said, Thanksgiving is coming up and, of course, Christmas just around the corner. But, those cases of COVID certainly on the rise, and plenty to go between President-elect is due to take office on the 20th of January.
Yes, it's not far away at all. At noon on the 20th of January is the inauguration day. So let's hope and pray everything goes smoothly.
Well said.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Appreciate all of that. Now,